I'm sports anchor R.C. Hansen for Star City News. Coming up next, find out which team will be calling the Pershing Center home next spring. Now, people are just starting to get off work, so there's plenty more that are going to be pouring into polling places all around the city and even the state to decide who they want to be president of the United States. We live in a world dominated by medication. It's no wonder why health is a major concern for everyone in this upcoming election. University Health Center Associate Director Jim Yankich says currently the health care benefits young adults.
The law dictates that young adults up to age 26 can remain on their parents' plan, regardless of whether or not they're married, single, they have their own full-time job, doesn't matter. If someone who is younger than 19 has a pre-existing condition, a pre-existing medical condition, that has to be covered by the insurance plan.
College students can get a major help with the current health care plan. Mitt Romney may look into this if he is elected. Now, Romney says he will repeal health care if he's elected president. However, a lot of health care's current regulations are when he passed them as Massachusetts governor. People shouldn't expect a complete change in health care should Romney be elected. There are some points he might keep after repealing Obama's plan. Yankich expects at least a couple points to remain.
Maybe they'll keep some of the provisions of health care reform. For example, one is the age 26 provision that I talked about a minute ago. That's popular. And probably pre-existing conditions, requiring insurance companies to cover pre-existing conditions.
The amount of health care a person gets depends on what job they have. Certain jobs have better health care than others. Yankich says a person's health shouldn't be affected by their type of job.
Again, regardless if Obama's reelected or if Romney's elected, it would be nice to see everybody kind of migrate away from that issue and put that issue aside. That, you know, at least let's come to an agreement that health insurance coverage should not be determined by whether or not somebody has a job.
And I think that all Americans, no matter, or well, heck, I think all human beings, no matter how much money they have a basic human right to, you know, to a certain level of health care.
I'm R.C. Hansen for Star City News. People cast their ballots to vote for who they want to represent them. Lancaster County Commissioner David Shively says early voting is a major part of the election.
We've had about 31,000 people that have requested ballots, and most of those are back in. There'll still be several ballots that will be returned today. We will count ballots tonight. Hopefully by about midnight we'll have our unofficial final results. Of course, then we'll have some provisional ballots that have to be counted after the election.
Shively says they make sure poll workers are prepared and ready for the election when voters cast their ballots later today.
We've done training with all of our poll workers to make sure they're familiar with all of their responsibilities, make sure that everything's up to date for them understanding their responsibilities and that type of thing.
Whether it may be early voting, absentee, or voting on the election day, both presidential candidates put the focus on the younger generation to make sure their voice is heard. While the focus on the young generation to vote is always a major concern every year in an election, college students this year are projected to be at an all-time high when voting turnout. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln expects to have a major voter turnout, something Dell Weed says is very important.
And I don't know what the projected turnout is today, but I'm sure it'll be well over 50%. And that's really good. And that means people are engaged in, the affairs of what's going on in the country and their vote means something.
I'm R.C. Hansen, reporting for Star City News. The Huskers made another late comeback against Northwestern last Saturday. Nebraska tied a school record for a fourth quarter comeback. The Huskers scored 13 points in the final quarter to beat the Wildcats 29-28. The win kept their Big Ten title hopes alive, but this week's game against Michigan could determine who will represent the Legends Division at Indianapolis in December. The game will feature two of the Big Ten's most mobile quarterbacks in Taylor Martinez and Denard Robinson. Game time is at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. Speaking of Taylor Martinez, he moved up in the Nebraska's all-time passing list. Martinez is now second with 5,335 passing yards. He passed Eric Crouch and Joe Gans after his 342-yard performance against Northwestern. Martinez is behind Zach Taylor, who broke the record from 2005 to 2006. There is something special Nebraska will be celebrating this Saturday. Even though November 3rd isn't until next Saturday, the Huskers will be celebrating the 50-year sellout streak anniversary against Michigan. Nebraska will be at Michigan State next week. The sellout streak started against Missouri in 1962 on November 3rd, and the Huskers have sold out 322 consecutive home games. Season ticket holders can receive a free picture at Huskers Authentic. The Husker volleyball team won't have any time to relax this week after returning home from a 3-0 sweep of Illinois. Nebraska will host Ohio State Friday night and top-ranked Penn State Sunday afternoon. Nebraska remained number 4 in the nation as the top 12 didn't change after the weekend. Last night was a presidential debate, but something else was being decided as well. The Detroit Tigers played the San Francisco Giants tomorrow night. The Giants rolled over the St. Louis Cardinals 9-0 to advance to the World Series. San Francisco won the series 4-3. Detroit made it to the World Series after sweeping the New York Yankees 4-0. The matchup could be displaying the National and American League MVPs with Buster Posey and Triple Crown winner Miguel Cabrera. The game starts in San Francisco at 7 p.m. on Fox. After giving up on fighting the anti-doping charges, Lance Armstrong was stripped of his Tour de France titles. The 7-time winner will be banned from professional cycling for life. Companies such as Nike have severed ties with Armstrong last week. Voter turnout was great considering how nice the weather was outside today. Taylor, is there any correlation between the weather and voter turnout?
Yeah, we actually were wondering about that as well, and it turns out that there actually is a good correlation between the two.
A woman discovered over $51,000 in valuables stolen after walking through her torn front door yesterday morning. Laptops, gaming systems, jewelry, and prescription drugs were taken by the intruders from the Northeast Blacksmith Road home. And police say, considering the timetable, this was likely a well-planned looting.